to the Daily Bite. I'm your host, Pastor Steve Andrews.
The visions of Daniel continue in Daniel chapter 10. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a word was revealed to Daniel, who was named Belteshazzar. And the word was true, and it was a great conflict. And he understood the word, and had understanding of the vision. In those days I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 weeks. I ate no delicacies. No meat or wine entered my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all for the full 3 weeks. On the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, that is, the Tigris, I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a man clothed in linen, with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, and his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of a multitude. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision. For the men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great trembling fell upon them, and they fled to hide themselves. So I was left alone and saw this great vision, and no strength was left in me. My radiant appearance was fearfully changed, and I retained no strength. Then I heard the sound of his words, and as I heard the sound of his words, I fell on my face in deep sleep with my face to the ground. And behold, a hand touched me, and set me trembling on my hands and knees. And he said to me, O Daniel, man greatly loved, understand the words that I speak to you, and stand upright, for now I have been sent to you. And when he had spoken this word to me, I stood up trembling. Then he said to me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand, and humbled yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, but Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I was left there with the kings of Persia, and came to make you understand what is to happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision is for the days yet to come. When he had spoken to me according to these words, I turned my face toward the ground and was mute. And behold, one in the likeness of the children of man touched my lips. Then I opened my mouth and spoke. I said to him who stood before me, O my Lord, by reason of the vision pains have come upon me, and I retain no strength. How can my Lord's servant talk with my Lord? For now no strength remains in me, and no breath is left in me. Again one having the appearance of a man touched me and strengthened me. And he said, O man greatly loved, fear not. Peace be with you. Be strong and of good courage. And as he spoke to me, I was strengthened, and said, Let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me. Then he said, Do you know why I have come to you? But now I will return to fight against the prince of Persia, and when I go out, behold, the prince of Greece will come. But I will tell you what is inscribed in the book of truth. There is none who contends by my side against these, except Michael, your prince. This is the word of the Lord. In my opinion, the hardest part of chapter 10 is the first verse, understanding just what vision it is Daniel is referring to in that verse. Is he referring back to the vision of chapter 8? To the vision of chapter 9? Is he referring to a unique vision that comes true, and now he's moving on from that, and then we have a new vision being shared with us in chapter 11 tomorrow? Or is it a reference to chapter 11 tomorrow? I don't really know what to make of verse 1 here. You could see it in several different ways. Cyrus, again, Darius, the king of Persia, Darius the Mede, 537 or 536 BC here, knowing that the reign began in 539. During that time, a word is revealed to Daniel. So that's the trouble part. Because the other visions like to mention the first year. Well, I mean, chapter 9 and chapter 11 both will mention the first year of Darius the Mede, whereas chapter 8 is a reference to the reign of Belshazzar, so even earlier than this. So, again, it could lead towards this being a separate vision, just mentioned in verse 1 briefly. In those days, verse 2, jumping into the text that actually makes more sense than verse 1 does, Daniel spent 3 full weeks in mourning. Now that could be a response to the vision, right, that he had seen. He understood, though, He hasn't understood all the visions that he's been seeing. He understands this when it causes him to grieve and to mourn, and he doesn't even anoint himself. Anointing, this is not the anointing that you talk about with a prophet, priest, or king, or the anointed one as in the Christ, the Messiah, as in Jesus, but rather this is an anointing simply that the Jewish people and many other ancient cultures would do, particularly after washing. Whether it's a dry skin thing or not, I can't say for sure, but you rubbed oil over your skin, much like we would cover ourselves with lotion or even suntan lotion, sunscreen, because it has a little bit of benefit in that regard as well. So you would do this as you were prepping for a feast or visitors. It was a sign of joy. All those sorts of things coming into picture. Daniel avoids even this regular part of hygiene in that culture for 3 weeks. It does not mean he didn't bathe for 3 weeks, although I suppose that's a possibility as well. He's standing by the bank of the great river, the Tigris. Interestingly, the Tigris in the Hebrew is not actually the Tigris, it's the Hiddekel, which then we know of to be the Tigris. A lot of locations and things just get brought straight forward from Hebrew into English, but occasionally you have one that doesn't. Tigris is one of them. The nation of Egypt is another. Like Assyria is Ashur in Hebrew, but Egypt is like Mizraim or something like that. So not always straightforward as you move one noun into another language. That's the Tigris for you. He sees a man clothed in linen. Now, before we discuss the appearance of this man, a question for your children. What do you think an angel looks like? If an angel were to visit you, like the Lord sends angels to visit Mary and Joseph, you could ask your kids who the Lord sent an angel to visit. What do you think they'd look like? Our picture of angels that we have in a lot of pop culture, or the greeting card industry, all those sorts of places, pretty poor for what they actually must have looked like. I mean, every time an angel appears, well, not every time, but almost every time, what does the angel have to say to the person? Almost the first thing they say, fear not, or do not be afraid. Because the angel is terrifying in appearance, in some way, shape, or form. So it's worth mentioning, it's worth understanding that. And at the same time, angels are able to make themselves appear to be men. As you get in Genesis, I believe it's chapter 17 or 18, where the 3 men visit Abraham at his tent. One of them is Yahweh himself, and the other 2 are angels who then descend down into Sodom to see Lot. Or the strange verse in the book of Hebrews that talks about how we should be hospitable because who knows, some of you have even entertained angels without knowing it. So they can disguise their appearance if they wish to. Anyway, Daniel here perhaps sees an angel as a part of this vision. A man clothed in linen, a belt of fine gold from Uphaz, we don't know where that is, around his waist. His body was like beryl, so his torso, his chest, is being described as a stone, perhaps a bluish-green colored stone. It's one of the stones that went into the ephod of the high priest, which had 12 stones in it, in Exodus chapter 28. But there are a couple things here that make it sound like maybe this is more than an angel. Appearance like lightning might point us to the transfiguration of Jesus and how he radiated light from even his garment. His eyes like flaming torches. This is the description of Jesus in Revelation chapter 1, verse 14. Arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze. In Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 27, the vision Ezekiel sees of God, from the waist up, God's body is described as being gleaming metal. So the connections that we see in those couple of instances could point at this being Jesus. perhaps the pre-incarnate Christ appearing to Daniel to share with Daniel this vision. Now, the vision that we're going to end up reading here is going to take us through the rest of the book, really. Chapters 11 and 12 work together with at least verse 2 and onward. Again, we don't know what to do with verse 1, as a unit that goes together quite well, a final vision for Daniel to see. So, Daniel sees a vision, but the men who are with him are terrified, and they flee. Similar to the road to Damascus, that those who are with Paul when Paul is struck down by Jesus appearing to him, those men, they understand something happened, but they couldn't understand. They did not see the same thing that Paul saw. So Daniel is humbled as he stands either before this angel or before God, and he's without strength. He is changed in that way. And he falls asleep on the ground, as he did in chapter 8, verse 18, when he sees Gabriel, and Gabriel touched him and stood him up, and now this one does too. Again, angel or Jesus, I don't know for certain. There's another clue here in verses 13 and 14 that indicates this is probably an angel and not Jesus, and that's the idea of the battle, and that he could be withheld from coming to Daniel sooner. Because of what was going on in another location. It would seem to be if that was Jesus, that would not be the case. But the flip side to that is, again, in verse 18 and 19, as we move over there, he's able to strengthen Daniel. He's able to speak to him words that Jesus speaks after the resurrection. Fear not, peace be with you. When you think, what did Jesus say to his disciples when he found them in the house, cowering, afraid of the Jews killing them? So, pictures either way. All right, we don't get any actual vision today. We get the angel or Jesus speaking to Daniel these things. And he's going to speak to Daniel here and say that because of Daniel's prayers, God has sent this messenger, whoever it is, to speak to Daniel, to encourage him, to strengthen him in what is coming, and the rest of the people as well. He mentions Michael by name here in verse 13. That's Daniel 10, Daniel 12, Jude 1, and Revelation 12. Those are the spots that Michael the angel is mentioned. There were other Old Testament men named Michael, because it's just a Hebrew name that means who is like God. But Michael gets that name. So the angel speaks of another angel. It's hard to know exactly what verse 13 has going on here. Again, it makes it sound more like an angel, so that there are angels and demons battling even over these earthly kingdoms, and so there's a fight over the kingdom of Persia, and this angel got tied up in that battle and could not get to Daniel until now. That's what it sounds like, as you especially go to verses 20 and 21, you see the same thing. The angel says once this battle is over, he has another battle with the prince of Greece. So it's a spiritual battle here being described. The prince of Persia, if we're talking literally of rulers, we're talking about Cyrus himself, and Cyrus and Daniel, they get along fine. There would not be a need for this. And Alexander the Great would be other reference of Greece. So we should be taking this, again, angels and demons battling, which lends this to being not Jesus, but one of the angels who's doing this fighting. Not that Jesus doesn't fight, but that if Jesus was fighting, it wouldn't take him 21 days. That the Lord would have less trouble dispatching of demons, even the devil himself. Although that battle is yet to come, at least historically. We've seen it, we know it, as the battle that occurred on the cross on Good Friday. So, this angel's finally made it to Daniel to share with him what is going to come about for the people of God in the latter days. This vision is for days yet to come. Daniel, terrified again, and without strength, fell asleep already, and now he is facing the ground. He's unable to speak. And a child, right? One in the likeness of the children of man. Could be an angel, again. Maybe this is why, again, the cultural depiction of angels likes to paint them as little children, little children, but that's another story. This angel touched my lips. I opened my mouth and I spoke. The angel touching the lip, that would actually point us back to Isaiah's call. If you think of the prophet Isaiah, when he has a vision of God, he is terrified, thinks he's going to die, he has unclean lips. The angel takes a burning coal from the altar and touches it to the lips of Daniel. Not Daniel. And Isaiah is able then to speak. And he's going to be God's messenger, his spokesman to the people. In the same way, Daniel is being given these things to speak. Daniel is not strengthened yet, says, "How can I even speak to you, my Lord, for there's no breath left in me." That's sort of like when you say, "I'm speechless," and you're too busy, just rambling all kinds of strange words. You're not actually speechless, because all kinds of words are coming, but they don't make any sense. That's what Daniel's doing here, too. So, the last paragraph of today's text, we see the angel strengthen him. The one with the appearance of a man touches him. So that's the same one from verse 5 that we've been talking about as either an angel or Jesus. And then he speaks. He reminds him that he's greatly loved by God. That's why this angel has come. It's because Daniel is loved. His prayers have been heard. This is the response to that answer of prayer. Be strong. Be of good courage. Do not fear. Peace be with you. Again, so much so like the words of Jesus. And the very speaking strengthens Daniel. That's also very much like the words of Jesus. Hebrews chapter 1, verse 3, that Jesus upholds the universe by the power of his word. It is the spoken word of Jesus Christ that strengthens you and strengthens me, and in this we rejoice. And so there's another, if you're keeping tallies, another tally under the angel being Jesus in this text, but it's hard to say. All right, so strengthens Daniel. Daniel invites him to speak now that he has been strengthened. And this is where we're going to end today. We already talked about the battle of verses 20 and 21. So tomorrow in chapter 11, we get to see the vision itself as the angel or Jesus will reveal more to us about what is to come for the people of God.